Hello, and welcome to the Common Geeking Program.
What?
What are you fucking doing?
Explosions. I'm doing explosions.
God.
You son of a bitch. I had a whole thing planned out, and you're just going in here with... Sounds more like static than explosion.
Or like Donald Duck.
Kaboom! Blah! Shra.
Welcome to the Common Geeking Program. We are a book club style podcast where each episode we discuss a different topic from our own geeky and nerdy perspectives. And holy moly, guys, the impossible has happened. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that someone in this podcast, other than myself, would suggest that we fucking talk about Transformers. But here we goddamn go. We're fucking talking about Transformers The Last Night. It's a film. If you haven't seen it,
Just don't.
It's an experience. I'm joined by a couple.
It's not. It's actually super boring, and it's like 2.5 hours long for no good reason.
I thought it was like 3 something.
It's
feels
2
like
hours
that.
and 45 minutes. I am joined by a couple fellow nerds here today who can introduce themselves. Who are you guys?
Hi, I'm Taeemul Chowdhury, or Chowder, whichever you prefer. And I'm kaboom! Blah! Blah. We have to get to the chopper! Now! By the way, check out my tits!
Oh.
Marky
okay.
Mark!
Oh, okay.
That's a concern that I was not expecting.
Is that not a Michael Bay movie?
It is. It caught me off guard that you went straight for the tits.
Yeah, because in this scenario, I was imagining I wasn't immersed enough in the scenario that you were setting forth, and I was still imagining Chowder in this situation.
Right.
So then I just imagined Chowder like pulling up his shirt, going, "Look at my tits," and that's not quite the Michael Bay energy I was expecting at this exact juncture.
I mean, considering how that we've seen Stanley Tucci take his pants off, and also seeing Stanley Tucci get pissed on by a robot, and also Stanley Tucci under the balls of a giant.
That was Stanley Tucci.
That was Stanley Tucci.
Stanley Tucci does not get pissed on. That's fucking what's his face. Also, it's like 4 movies ago. Stanley Tucci's only in 2 of these.
So anyway, I'm Pat, and I was the one who suggested we do this episode, much to the chagrin of the rest of the gang. And
He's already regretting it.
I don't regret it, but I have many questions for how this movie got made.
And we're here to provide some answers and ask some more questions, probably more of the latter. This intro has been a bit of a clusterfuck, but so is the subject of today's episode. So we're going to start off by summarizing and discussing the topic, and then end with a little rating section where we decide if today's topic was worthwhile or enjoyable.
We may or may not be doing a ratings. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll fucking see when we get to the end of it. I think holistically we can say it was not worthwhile. Enjoyable, I think, is a bit more of a question mark. But let's move on into the summary, and we can break it down for you. All right, so if you are unfamiliar with the Transformers movie franchise, the movies made by Michael Bay, this is the 5th in this series, which you couldn't really tell by watching them because they have almost no cohesive plot whatsoever. But so this movie, the summary, I already know it's going to be a nightmare, but this movie opens up with, if you are uninformed, if you're just walking into this movie and not knowing you're about to watch a Transformers movie, you would have no fucking idea that you're about to watch a Transformers movie, because of course, we open up and it looks just like any fucking of the quadrillion generic King Arthur movies that have been made in the past decade or so, because we are in ye olden times. I believe specifically, and I think I have this in my notes written somewhere, it just says the Dark Ages rather than giving a year.
Yeah, and also like there's like a big war that will decide civilization or chaos, and it's like, who the fuck are they fighting?
Right, the stakes are never defined.
They never say who they're fighting. And B, Britain is not civilization. Like, all of it, I mean.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, this is like the whole scene just like oozes of like pure genericism in terms of like the King Arthur story. And it's like, oh, we got our Knights of the Round Table. They're all wearing fucking classic. Like, looking at some of the like behind the scenes footage of this, I'm thinking like, man, this scene must have actually cost like a buttload of money because they like had all these extras and all these costumes. And what is the point of having this in a Transformers film? What?
And like the armor they're wearing is like very ornate, you know?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Well, what if it was like left over from another movie? You know, maybe they reused it.
I mean, that seems to be the general theme of this whole film. Is just like, it really feels like someone just came and was like, hey, I've got this fucking, pitch for a King Arthur movie that comes to modern day and there's like science fiction involved. And Michael Bay was like, oh, perfect. I don't have a good script for the next Transformers movie yet. And the poor intern standing next to him holding his fucking,
life
script is just like, gee, Michael, I was kind of hoping we'd make this its own thing and not make this Transformers 5. And he's like, nope, this is how this is going.
And like, here's the thing, like the idea of Transformers in the medieval ages would be kind of fun, like, but the movie doesn't actually take place in the medieval ages.
No, it does not. It takes place in present day, notionally after the fourth Transformers movie, Age of Extinction, though there are, as with all the Transformers movies, a lot of questions as to how those movies relate in the slightest.
Like for this movie, I feel like I was missing a ton of context, important context, and it's like, you're telling me 4 does not provide any of those context. Not 3.
No,
not
in
2.
fact, Chowder, I think if you had watched 4, you'd have more questions than you do if you hadn't.
Like how Stanley Tucci is a successful businessman trying to market Transformers in Age of Extinction. And then in this one, he's playing Merlin in the year 13 fucking whatever.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense. Did Merlin survive for this entire time?
I'm almost certain that Stanley Tucci was in the first movie, though. He got pissed off
by
Bumblebee.
Not. Nope.
Who was
that was that's what's his face. I can't remember his name,
Hold
but
on.
the guy who's in Big Lebowski. Not the one in Big Lebowski, but what's his fucking name? I didn't think I'd have to look it up because he plays a minor character. He's Simmons, He's in this movie as well, Chowder.
Is he?
Fine, you're gonna have to fucking look me up. Simmons.
I am looking it up right now.
I look. Everyone looks the same. The Transformers all look the same.
Stanley Tucci is not in this movie.
Stanley Tucci is in this movie.
No.
He's
Not in Transformers 1, is what I'm saying.
No, correct. Yeah, no, not even a little bit. John Turturro. You're thinking of
John
John Turturro's character.
John Turturro got pissed on.
To be very fair, there's always at least one character in these movies that has a similar energy. Usually, in addition to John Turturro also being in those movies, he is in this movie as well.
Yep.
Probably not relevant enough to even get a mention in the full fucking summary of this plot, because why is John Turturro in this movie? So, yes, we've got Merlin. Merlin makes contact with a Transformer who is very knight-looking, and he's like, here, take this staff. And then Merlin controls this big metal dragon that goes and wins King Arthur the fight.
Right.
And then we move to present day where
Optimus is just floating around in space, going.
That is maybe the one question that is answered by answered by Age of Extinction, but we'll get to that. So the world that they've set up is now Transformers are illegal on Earth. Weird way to phrase it, but whatever.
I mean, I think the metaphor is pretty on the nose, but like,
yeah. We'll get to it.
Okay.
But Transformers are now illegal on Earth, following notionally the events of all the other movies where they blow up a city every single time. It's believable, even though it's not like referencing a specific events. We are opened to this junkyard scene where this group of kids is being a little rascals, and they're going to check out the quarantine zone because it's a Transformer-ridden wasteland or whatever. And then we meet a character who we think is probably going to be one of the main characters in this movie.
Considering the significance they played in the first hour, and then you would think she'd be important, but then she drops off the face of the movie for the rest of
this girl Isabel, she's got her two Transformer friends.
She's like this funky little orphan girl who's like made friends with the Transformers in the quarantine zone.
Yeah, and she's been living out in the wild, so she knows how it really is.
And also, she's Latina because she randomly says Spanish words.
Also, her little sidekick Transformer robot just randomly says guacamole every once in a while, or was it something else? I don't remember.
I Chihuahua. That's what he was saying.
Right. He said something that's just kind of a racist stereotype, and that's all. It is like his entire presence in the movie. But yeah, she's got this little robot named Squeaks, who is a Transformer. God knows how he got there.
And she also knows how to fix Transformers, just like really, really well, even though she's a child and. Probably.
Yeah, I guess she's been chilling with this dude named Canopy, but now that these kids are there, the government, which is now, has a very, I believe TRF is the name of their task force, they have a very anti-Transformers stance, right? So they're like, oh shit, there's some kids here. We gotta kill that robot who's standing right next to him. Not Squeaks. This is her other friend, Canopy, who's a regular-sized Transformer. So they're just like, oh shit, this is a really dangerous situation. There's a bunch of kids right there. We should probably blow that thing up that's standing like 3 feet from them. With missiles. Could have easily killed any one of them.
Scrapnel's not a thing at all.
So Isabel, her friend Canopy here, gets murdered, and then fucking star of the last movie, Age of Extinction, Mark Wahlberg, playing the character of Cade Yeager, who is a failed inventor, I think it's fair to say, shows up, and now he's like running a fucking junkyard to help Transformer refugees. So he scoops them all up and then gets junkyard. Them to safety.
Not the junkyard they're currently in, a different junkyard.
Different junkyard, yes. His own junkyard. And then he shows up. Fucking Isabel kind of smuggles herself into the junkyard while the rest of the kids just go back to their normal lives.
And like the rest of the kids just drop off the face of the movie because...
Well, I mean, I don't think they were meant to be characters, but
they were never meant to be characters, but there was a weird amount of emphasis on them because...
Yeah. I feel like a lot of these movies do that, where they put like a lot of emphasis on like background characters, which in a different, better movie I might admire. That's like all of the background characters aren't just like generic weirdos, but they actually seem to have personalities. But since it's mostly played for like weird sex charge jokes, no, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying in a different movie I might appreciate that these guys have like actual characteristics, but it's just kind of played for weird jokes in this film.
Weird horny jokes.
Yeah, weird horny jokes.
The 14-year-old girl jokes.
Yeah,
it's weird. Uncomfortable.
It's weird. It's all weird. But before going back to the junkyard, he finds this broken down ship of a Transformer that landed in this zone. Very little emphasis is pointed on this. We're just like, boom, next scene, he's standing next to the ship helping this dude out. And this is like a really regal night Transformer. And he's like, yo, Cade Yeager, you're my man. You're the chosen one or whatever. You're a good man. But so yeah, this guy basically is like, yo, take this crazy important talisman. And Cade Yeager's like, nah, fam. But the talisman is a Transformer, of course, so it fucking follows him around. And they go back to the junkyard. There's like a line outside where he's talking to a Native American police officer, and he says something really fucking racist. And the guy's like, and then of course the character points out that's kind of racist, which I guess is Michael Bay's excuse to just put a racist joke in the movie as long as the characters point it out. It's okay? ? What? But yeah, we get to the junkyard. We've got all of our characters from Age of Extinction. Surprising, follow through with continuity of characters that is not usually happens with any characters other than Bumblebee and Optimus Prime.
We have uncomfortable Japanese stereotype. We have robot with like iron shavings.
Dude, the thing that annoys the hell out of me
John Goodman.
Is they didn't even pick a Japanese car to play the Japanese character. It's a fucking Mercedes.
Yeah.
He's
I think he's a Bugatti in Age of Extinction.
It doesn't make any sense. Those are both German.
Yeah. Okay.
God!
I don't know. Yeah, it's... Anyway, yeah, no, Drift is just like a blatant racist stereotype. It's really uncomfortable. Hound is basically just robot John Goodman.
Yep.
That's it. And then Crosshairs, who doesn't really have a lot of screen time in this movie, which is good because he was kind of an infuriating character from Age of Extinction. But again, he doesn't really have enough going on in this one to really be worth talking about too much. So yeah, they're there. Christ, where does it go from here?
They start tugging at the heartstrings a little bit by talking about each other's families. You find out that the little orphan girl actually is an orphan. Cade Yeager's daughter, who was a main character in Age of Extinction, is now just in college, I guess, but he can't talk to her because he's a refugee from the government or a criminal wanted by the government for all of his Transformer dealing. So they try to play that for emotions a little bit, but I just don't give a shit at this point. Funny,
because
though, is that the
Chowder, you don't know because maybe you haven't watched Age of Extinction or it's been a while. But if I learned a single fucking thing from Age of Extinction is that Cade Yeager is the worst fucking father on the face of the planet. So this is not really doing anything for me personally.
So, I mean, as someone who hasn't watched Age of Extinction and knows nothing about his character, it doesn't matter to me. Because, like, they never bring it up again. You know, there's no moment at the end where he's like, hey, daughter, I can now be a father again.
The thing that is hilarious, though, is that, like, they only have 30 seconds on the phone, and she's just talking to him about stuff, and he can't say anything back. But after watching that scene from Age of Extinction, where the boyfriend pulls out the Romeo and Juliet card or whatever... All I want to imagine is at the very end of that, she was going to say she loves her boyfriend or something like that, and like, fuck you, dad, or something like that, but...
But it gets cut off.
But it gets cut off, so he doesn't hear it, and he's like, man, I love my daughter so much, and she's just sitting there like, fuck you, dad!
Yeah, so he does some inconsequential bonding with Isabel about how she's an orphan, and his fucking daughter is
a little bit more Bud Light
college.
Spawn.
Yeah, one of the little... that is a question that I have in these movies, which maybe we can talk about later if there's time, but, like, generally speaking, in most, like, Transformers media, better Transformers media, the Transformers do not have sex and do not reproduce sexually. They're, like, made by their planet or whatever, but there's just, like, baby Dinobots in this movie, and Hound says something about his father, and I've got questions...
About lineage.
And then there's just Quintessa, who looks like a human woman, just metal colored.
Yeah.
And it's just
again,
like... we'll get to that. But I do have a lot to say about Quintessa.
Oh, so do I. But I don't remember exactly how A leads to B, but we are met with another scene where we're introduced to our other main character in this movie, who is Vivian Wembley. Is that her name?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, Vivian Wembley.
Who plays Polo.
Yeah, but this is a 2-hour and 45-minute movie, but we definitely need to leave the fucking polo scene in here.
Well, yeah, man, she fell off a horse and scored a goal or whatever the fuck they're called in polo.
Right, and the only bit of fucking... Because the polo, I promise you, does not come back later in the movie. They just really need to stress that she is, in fact, British. The only bit of characterization we get for her here, which is arguably one of the only bits of characterization we get for the entire movie, is she scores this goal and her teammate is just like, is this why you're always single? Because this is something that is really emphasized with this character, is that she cannot find a man and therefore does not have a lot of worth.
He's all butthurt because she didn't pass the ball to him. He's like, I was wide open. And she's like, yeah, I don't care. I scored.
So, yeah. We're met with our arguably most important piece of characterization about her, which is that she cannot hold down a man. Very important, because, you know, women don't have any other characteristics really other than fucking as they relate to their sexual lives. Whatever. Yeah. Michael.
And then, like, once that scene is, like, over at the museum, she doesn't appear for another hour.
Oh my god.
Oh,
and
also,
like an hour later, she comes back in.
They throw in the bad driver trope, too, because when she gets there, she parks her car and she
just
hits
runs
a bike
into
rack.
some bicycles. Yeah. What was the point of
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, I'm running so late. I can't pick up the bicycles. No, I'm a woman. I'm so frail."
And then, like, so she's like a college professor, and then, like, oh, what important lecture is she giving? Of course, she's teaching all of these students about the legend of King Arthur, because definitely no one in Britain went to kindergarten. We don't teach classes on King Arthur in college, Michael. I don't know if you've ever been to a college.
I'm sure there are King Arthur classes.
I'm sure there are, but it's like, no, but they wouldn't be teaching them what King Arthur is.
Yeah, that's true.
She'd be teaching them, like, you know, like context, origins.
The history of the literature around King Arthur, not just like, oh, it said they existed, but actually, this is what I'm teaching you. They never really existed, and it's just like,
right.
What does Michael Bay think that a college class environment is like? Because now I'm just thinking back to the second movie when they have fucking Rainn Wilson doing like an egomaniacal like monologue on stage, and I'm like, okay, Michael Bay has some pretty low opinions of what college is, I think, or some pretty weird warped opinions.
Yeah. Also, like, you know, all this time, this brief time spent on her before she's gone for an hour, they don't establish the very important dynamic she has with her father, which, again, another cliche, woman has daddy issues. And needs a real man, but like she has like a problem with her dad involving like the time he spent researching the legend of King Arthur, and you know it comes back in a significant way in that she's the distant descendant of Merlin, and we could have established this stuff earlier for better payoff, but no.
Also, can I just point out how fucking wild it is that, like, her main point of, like, contention with her father is that he spent too much time researching King Arthur and not spending time with her, and then she becomes a college professor that's teaching fucking the legend of King Arthur? It's a little wild.
Yeah.
Right? Because she supposedly is supposed to have disdain for this subject because, you know, she's like, oh, it's all dumb fairy tales. And I'm like, but then you couldn't have thought of anything else for her to be teaching a college course on?
Yeah,
just so like, you could...
yeah, it's like she got a doctorate, a PhD, just all this stuff, and it's like on King Arthur. Shoot, you could have had anything. You could have had anything else. I don't know. Like she teaches history, and one student goes, "How does King Arthur fit into the history of England?" Oh, he's not real. You're full of it.
Yeah. But so at some point we are introduced to oh gosh, what's his name? Well, Megatron does exist. Anthony Hopkins' character of, and I would not blame a single person for watching this movie and not catching what this character's name is, because it was news to me on the IMDb page. His name is Sir Edmund Burton, apparently, and he is fucking part of this like underground movement of like, or this underground fucking not cult, but like organization, order. Yeah, I guess
it's
like this long line of earls who like kept the secret of the Transformers.
Badly, I might add. I don't know what he's doing, because after 2007, like, it's kind of out of the bag.
He's still keeping Transformers secret, even though we already know they're plentiful on Earth at this point. Like,
also, how did they even manage to keep that a secret until 2007? They're giant
kept him in his
fucking
basement.
robots.
What do you mean?
They're giant fucking robots.
Yeah, and they transformed into cars and other things that we'll get to later.
We saw the World War II flashback. Bumblebee did not stay a car. He was in full robot form, bazookaing everyone.
Right, they killed everybody who saw him. What do you mean?
That just brings up more questions.
Listen, let's push on. All right. So he's part of this order that has been keeping Transformers secret, and also, like, you know, keeping up the legend of Merlin and King Arthur this whole time, like generations and generations. He's got a creepy little C-3PO robot butler named Cogman, who is an absolute psychopath and probably the best character in this movie. I don't know. Not a very high bar, I would say. But he basically abducts our two main characters here. He goes and gets Vivian by kidnapping her in her fucking car, which is, it's a whole fucking weird thing. and he gets Cade Yeager and brings him in because...
Bro, you skipped over all of the stuff where they raid the junkyard.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that. It's hard to remember the order in which things happen in this fucking movie.
Right,
okay.
Before Cade gets kidnapped, you gotta do the whole TRF goes and recruits Megatron to then make his Suicide Squad of bad guys to go...
Who, by the way...
don't appear until the end.
If I could just... Okay, this is the biggest thing that I'm talking about when I'm saying you would not be any less confused if you'd watch Age of Extinction, because the entire plot of Age of Extinction was like this corporation brought back to life Megatron's dead body by accident. It's a whole thing. Maybe we'll talk about Age of Extinction sometime. And now they're like him and all of his cronies are like these super advanced Transformers that do this weird like warpy transformation. And it's no longer Megatron, it's now Galvatron. And he gets away at the end of the movie. And then in this movie, he's Megatron again. He has a completely different body. He no longer does the weird futuristic transformation. None of those weird futuristic Transformers exist anymore. And there's no explanation or even mention of it at all, which is wild.
And also, like, you know, they put a lot of emphasis on them. Like, they have, like, these flashy title cards and, like, unique intros to each of them. Yep. And then they just aren't in the movie until the climax. And it's like...
No, most of them get killed within 5 minutes, dog.
They're in that very next scene where they're raiding the junkyard and they go chase them through this deserted town. And then they all just die.
Wait, they weren't in the climax?
No, they were not.
One of them was. One of them survived, but the other four just like got killed in that scene within 5 minutes after their flashy introductions.
Oh my god!
Which I suspect I don't know what the timeline is. Suicide Squad came out around that time as well, right? Because I suspect that they were trying to capitalize with the marketing of this movie off of the marketing of Suicide Squad.
Yeah, but it's hilarious how they go out in the middle of the desert. You have a TRF guy standing point talking to Megatron with like 4 lawyers or government representatives behind him all on their computers and phones. And Megatron just spits out a name. He's like, I want this guy, Mohawk. And they call over to the government. They're like, yeah, Mohawk's good. He's fine. He's not going to hurt anybody. And then they pull him out of the hole and he's like, I'm going to kill all of you. Just kidding. Not you. I'm going to kill you later. And it's just like, okay, fine. And then they say this one name that's like Berserker or something like that. And they rip off his mouth guard so that he can talk and he says something really menacing. And then they're like, no, you can't have him. And then Megatron like throws his sword on the ground like, oh, god damn it. It's just the dumbest fucking scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, it's just wild that all of these characters, like, they're first of all, with the way that the government treats Transformers, why the actual fuck did they even have any Decepticon prisoners? This is not a scenario where, like, oh, all the Cybertronians are on Earth and they're, like, fucking reading them their Miranda rights or whatever, and then, like, they break a law and then they arrest them. They pretty much kill any Transformer they see on sight, right, including the ones who have been, like, constantly working with the government for the past 10 years. Why do they have a motherfucker named Berserker held in captivity? Why don't they just kill them? Why do they have Decepticon prisoners? Like, this is something I didn't even think about.
I said it's such a waste of taxpayer money to keep them all locked up and charged.
Like, it just doesn't make any fucking sense, and that it's completely unnecessary because they all die almost immediately. And then, I mean, at some point during all of this, we were introduced to the fact that fucking Optimus Prime is floating around in space, which is hilarious because the way that Age of Extinction ends is him flying off into space. Yeah, Optimus can fly now, I guess, ? And he's just like, I'm going to go fucking find answers about our homeworld. And then the first thing we see of him in The Last Night is him just like, as soon as I guess he got into the fucking space, he just froze and was floating around.
I'm amazed he made it to Cybertron.
Yeah, fucking who knows what. And also, like, this has been pointed out by other people who have been critiquing this movie, but he's like, he fucking wakes up and he's like, what did you do to my homeworld? It's all in tatters. But, like, in Dark of the Moon, the third movie in the franchise, Cybertron, like, teleported to Earth, and then the Autobots are like, well, this is gonna fuck up Earth. We really have to fucking undo this. And so they, like, destroyed the portal, and Cybertron fucking, like, inverted on itself and imploded. So you fucking know what happened to Cybertron, Optimus. You are the one who did it.
I didn't even know that. My thought was, hold on a second. The reason you left Cybertron in the first place was because the war you had with the Decepticon destroyed the planet. You should know what happened to Cybertron.
Yeah. It's okay. But yeah, no, the TRF agent that you were talking about, who's like doing the interview of Megatron, is one of the very few characters who has been. Well, he has not been present since the first movie, but he was a major character in the first movie, which is why he comes off as a little bit more sane than literally every single person around him. I don't know. They don't really utilize him in any significant fashion. I guess they just decided to fucking bring him back so that you'd have a familiar face to look at, I guess. There's no, of course, mention of what happened to Sam Witwicky, our main character from the first three movies. There's maybe like a slight implication that he's dead, but...
Well, no. What happened was Disturbia happened. So now he's in house arrest.
Wait, okay, hold on. Sam Witwicky is dead? What?
He's not dead.
They don't really address it.
I'm saying
there's like an implication that he might be somewhere.
There's an implication, but my implication is that the movie Disturbia happens in the same universe, and he is now just in house arrest. So we were on the Optimus Prime is in Cybertron now. Meets Quintessa. Who?
Okay, okay. So I got to bring this up now. Quintessa looks like a human woman, just spray painted metal, and it's just like, why does she look like that?
Yeah.
Like, I know that Transformers is infamously known for, like, you know, giant robot pecs and, like, lady Transformers with, like, swaying hips and stuff, but, like, never to this extreme, never to the point where it's just a supermodel woman.
Who doesn't transform ever.
Yeah.
I don't think she is supposed to be a Transformer. So she presents the scenario that she's the one who created Cybertron, which fucking in Transformers lore from like the original show, there is some precedent to that because there was a race of aliens called the Quintessons. They had 5 faces. They were crazy. That's why they're called Quintessons, because they have 5 faces. And they're just like this fucking corrupt other robotic alien race. And they're the ones who manufactured the Transformers. So they named her Quintessa, which is the name of the planet that the Quintessons live on. And she's like, oh, I'm the one who created the Transformers. But then there's like, someone calls her the Great Deceiver later. So like, I feel like this was something that was, and she doesn't die at the end of the movie. So I feel like this is something that was going to be fucking... We'll get there. I'm just saying this is something that was fucking going to be like later addressed in Transformers 6, I imagine, if The Last Knight didn't do so poorly and all plans for that were scrapped. So yeah, she does like a little weird mind control thing to Optimus and turns him into Nemesis Prime because...
By bitch slapping him.
But you also find out that the staff that was given to Merlin came from her. That was her staff.
Yeah. Allegedly.
And she wants it back. She's got a hole in the wall where it goes all nice and neat like a Lego. And it needs to come back.
Yeah, so she's trying to get the staff. The staff is like the big fucking MacGuffin of this story, of which there is one in every single Transformers movie about this fucking ancient Cybertronian artifact that is just fucking left on Earth somewhere.
Yep.
Why is it always Earth?
This movie actually almost attempts to answer that question, Chowder. I'm so glad you brought that up, because in this one, it turns out Earth is Unicron, the fucking planet eater, destroyer of the worlds.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot about the main point.
Okay, to be fair, every fucking mention of Unicron in this movie is also jumping around, because I'm pretty sure it only existed to set up stuff.
To the fucking kidnapping now. And then we eventually get to the point.
Yeah, so...
After the junkyard raid, where all of the aforementioned Suicide Squad robots are essentially killed off, they all run away, only for the TRF to come in and try to capture Cade. But... he is unsuccessful because our Lord, whatever his name is, I can't even remember, you just said it not too long ago, Anthony Hopkins has a robot butler transformer who comes in and steals Cade away. And at the same time, he sends his little car transformer Hot Rod, who for some reason has a French accent in this movie, over to go get Vivian, who kidnaps her, drives her all the way to the mansion. And we have our big meet of our 2 sexually charged characters, even though Like
they have nothing.
Nothing in common. Yeah.
Also, I want to like talk about how Anthony Hopkins like introduces like he's talking to Cade, and he's like, "How about her, that bitch of a car, or that bitchin' car she?
It's a bitchin' car."
Yeah, where she. Oh, what a bitchin' car she is, and of course, the car in question is a dude. Anthony Hopkins knows the car is a dude. So I can only assume he's talking about the woman in the car, in which case, why did he refer to the lady that he knows and seems to be personally connected to as like a family friend or something? Call her that. Refer to her like that.
I don't think that. I don't think that's a reasonable interpretation of that line, Chowder. I think he was definitely talking about the car, and they were just ignoring the fact that the car is in fact a sentient being.
But the car is a dude. He knows the car. He personally knows the car.
No,
so
man.
But he's talking about a car. It's more reasonable to think that he called the car a she than he called she a car. He's not calling her a car. We know that for a fact.
I'm just so confused.
But it's weird. Regardless.
Right. So they get to know each other. Cade immediately insinuates that Vivian is dressed like a slut, even though she's wearing a perfectly normal dress.
Yep.
Which makes no sense to me. He's like, "Why you're wearing a stripper dress right now?" It's literally a dress.
Okay, I think we need to start fucking speeding through this summary, just going like real general plot points, because we definitely need to discuss some of these things in more detail and have time to do that. So basically, what ends up happening is they go and they find the staff of Merlin. It's in an underwater ship, and they get the staff
that they get to in a submarine that is a transformer.
Allegedly, doesn't transform, but we're told it's a transformer. So they get the staff and. So fucking Megatron comes and steals. This is where I fell asleep on my rewatch of the movies. Right, Optimus comes as Nemesis Prime, and they're like, "Oh fuck yeah, Optimus! It's been a while since we've seen you." And he's like, "Fuck off!" And he takes the staff and he goes and brings it to Megatron. And their plan is to use the staff to. It has some ability to. They're bringing Cybertron to Earth, and they're going to drain all of Earth's energy to rebuild Cybertron, which will leave Earth a barren husk. That's their big plan, right?
Correct.
And they've
got, meanwhile, while all this is happening, there are these horns coming out of Earth.
Yeah, which is not really explored at all, because I'm convinced that this was entirely a setup for the next movie, which never happened.
Or something just added way after the fact in post.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, the horns come up, and then if you trace it back to when Earth was in Pangea form, they make like a nice semicircle for another planet to fit in, which is where
right around Stonehenge. It's the exact absolute center, of course.
So that would be where Cybertron comes and sits. They drain all the life out of it. Boom.
Yeah, so Optimus is fucking evil right now. And basically what our good guys' plan is they got to get the staff back so they can fucking like rally the knights to go kill everyone, and also just like stop their doomsday thing and stop Quintessa. And the whole time this...
you missed the part though. Like there is like an entire like fight scene where like Marky Mark and Bumblebee are trying to talk to Optimus like, this isn't who you are, and like nothing's like phasing, and then like Bumblebee just somehow gets his voice back. I don't know how, and he's like, "You're my best friend," and Optimus was like, "Holy shit, I haven't heard you talk in a long time." And like,
he's like, "Oh, I haven't heard you talk since we were back on Cybertron," even though definitely at the end of the first movie, Bumblebee got his voice back, and then they just decided that didn't happen in the second movie, so whatever.
And, you know, and then like a night dude's about, or wait, no, and then like Megatron takes the staff. Optimus was like, "Oh no, what have I done?" And then like one of the night bots are like, "We execute you," start swinging their big fuck off sword, and Kate Yeager, with a human-sized sword, somehow stops it.
But the sword is the talisman.
This is the magic of the talisman.
The talisman that the dying Transformer gave to him has attached itself to his body. And when this sword is about to swing and kill Optimus, it decides to materialize as its own sword, which is made out of the most shock-absorbing material possible, because he manages to stop the swing of a gigantic 40-ton robot with his tiny little human arms, which are admittedly large for human arms, but, like, still. It makes no sense.
I mean, there's clearly the implication is, boom, Transformer magic or whatever. Right. Oh, can I fucking mention that earlier in the movie when they're talking about all the mysticism of this, that Cade Yeager is like, well, any fucking sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And then Vivian turns around and is like, Arthur C. Clarke, impressive. No, the fuck it isn't. That
everyone
quote has been
and their
used
mama
in
knows
literally
that one.
Every movie for the past 20 years. It is the most basic quote you could possibly come up with.
Well, you're assuming that those movies exist in the Transformers timeline. We have no way of knowing that, my guy. Maybe they don't even have movies at all.
That's an interesting theory, Pat. So you're suggesting that the reason that everyone in this universe is so fucking stupid is because they have not had any sort of media literature consumption over
Correct.
The reason that this college professor is teaching a class on King Arthur is because no books have been written in this universe.
Exactly. It makes sense now.
It's all coming together.
So we find out that, what's it called? Cybertron is speeding through the not galaxy, the solar system. And some scientist over at JPL is like, holy shit, I gotta go talk to the president about this.
It's some scientists, also known as Buster Bluth.
Right. Don't remember his actual
from Arrested
name.
Development.
But he's like, yo, this thing is going to kill us in 3 days. And he's got all these formulas laid out. But obviously the president or whomever government official he's talking to is like, hey, man, I got a lunch to get to. Can you wrap this up real quick? It's like, dude, we're going to, it's doomsday in 3 days. And you're like, oh, man, I'm going to have to go eat lunch.
I mean, Pat, to be fair, that might be the most realistic thing in this movie.
I get that. It's just so fucking frustrating that even in reality, that's a possibility.
It's also just this character's existence is kind of wild to me because he never interacts with any of the other main characters really, right? He's just...
Wait, he talks to Anthony Hopkins, but...
Oh, does he? Yeah, maybe he does briefly, but he doesn't talk to Cade Yeager or Vivian or whatever, but he's just off every once in a while being this magic solution isn't going to work. We have to do it with science, and I have come up with this exact perfect way to do it with science, and I'm like, dude, you've been in a fucking room this whole time. What the hell do you know about A, Cybertronian science, and B, what the hell's actually going on out there?
Right.
We've got fucking planets flying to each other. I think you can suspend your disbelief that maybe there's some fucking Transformer magic science that could actually do something in this situation.
He's talking about it like it's magic and mumbo-jumbo, but it's not. It's science. Right. Transformer science. Advanced science. Millions of years ahead of you.
But I don't see a point to this character other than Michael Bay saying scientists actually have their head up their ass. What do they really know?
$10.
That is what I'm reading from the fucking meta context of this character existing in this movie is we have to have a dumb scientist who thinks that science is the solution, but in fact he's wrong the whole time. It's really magic.
Or your theory that Michael Bay just took a different script, stamped Transformers on it, is true, and he just never bothered to correct that particular line.
So, our valiant heroes try to regroup in order to save the planet by going and launching a raid on Cybertron to get the staff back to stop our Quintessa person, who has not appeared in the movie for over an hour at this point. From using the staff to drain all of the resources off of the Earth, which is actually Unicron. We also find out throughout this entire scenario that Vivian is a direct descendant of the great wizard Merlin, and she can wield the staff to use its powers.
She's the only one who can wield the staff. Mark Wahlberg is the chosen one with his medallion.
Which is why isn't she the chosen one?
Woman need man to be successful. That's what Michael Bay says to himself as he curls up in the fetal position alone every night. It's like, women need men. Women need men. I'm useful.
Because, like, I also wonder, I
is he married?
Legitimately wonder what fucking Michael Bay's stance on all this is. Because there's a weird sort of dynamic in pretty much every Transformers movie that, like, we have our main character who is, by all means, a bumbling fucking idiot.
Michael Bay is not married and has no children.
A secondary female character who is just significantly more competent in every single stretch of the imagination, but is mostly just used, like, sexual. Like, he could put all these female characters in the movie and make them all idiots as well, but despite his own best efforts, they all still end up looking more competent than every other character in the movie.
Right. Yeah, no, it's always the weird thing. It's like, for all the misogyny, his protagonist characters, who the audience is supposed to put themselves in the shoes of and relate to, are the worst, and the story acknowledges them as being the worst.
I would say, I don't know if the story, like, they're the worst, but I feel like there's a lot of stuff that still kind of, like, you know,
I mean,
it makes them seem like the good guy at the end. Because, like, Sam was like this, too. Like, both Sam and Kate are, like, they just do nothing but be insufferable little shitheads the entire time who are being totally irrational. And then at the end of the day, they do end up being the hero that saves it in the end. So there's still some sort of element there where it's, like, sort of validating to their character traits.
Speaking of saving it in the end, we should wrap up the summary because we still haven't finished.
So there's a lot of fucking slow-mo. They get the goddamn staff. They fucking bring it and they fucking shoot Quintessa. She disappears. Megatron flies away. I don't think they kill him.
There's this one section where Vivian thinks she's sacrificing herself to save everybody because this bomb didn't work the right way that they wanted it to.
Anthony Hopkins dies, I guess. Yeah, because he fucking takes out a shotgun and tries to shoot at Megatron. I'm sure that was going to help, bud.
Right.
And then Megatron shoots him and he dies. So that's...
And then in the aftermath of Cybertron, like, being... I don't know. They didn't destroy Cybertron, right? They just kind of, like...
No, I think the movie ends with it kind of still being there,
right.
And I'm sure this is something that was going to be addressed about the world in the hypothetical sixth movie,
right?
Like many of these things,
like, just
but it's still just there.
There's general shrapnel falling from the sky because bombs have been going off or whatever, and in that shrapnel explosion, the Transformers emerge in their car forms, so we never actually see them transform in the movie.
Nope.
It all happens off screen.
Yeah. There's only like there's a few things there's a few times in this movie where you see them actually transform, but it definitely feels like it's less and less in each movie.
And it's like one of the good things about the first movie, like the few good things.
Yeah.
It was never a good movie, but was like the action sequences and like how they incorporated the Transformers transforming, not just not like just the car form and the robot form, but the motion of them transforming into the action. It's so weird that they just ignore that. And
I'd also just like to say, like, I'm no fucking like visual effects like expert or artist by any means, but is it my imagination, or is the CGI just, like, legitimately worse in this one and maybe the last one than it was in, like, the earlier movies?
So I didn't see the last one.
They don't look real. Right. They look like very, like, they look like very high-res, like, you know, PlayStation characters rather than...
Right.
Like, I feel like it's more apparent in this movie that, like, you are looking at CGI, whereas, of course, you are always looking at CGI, but, like... The CGI was done in a way in, like, the first couple movies in which it felt more practical. Am I imagining that?
There was one scene where Optimus comes in. So when Optimus comes in the underwater, like, ship or whatever.
Ship, yeah.
And there are these two knights standing there while he's busting in the room. It literally looked like PlayStation 3 graphics. Like,
yeah. And also just, like... It's like weird little things. Like, I feel like on all of the Transformers, the saturation is way off.
Yeah.
Like, they're all much more saturated than they are compared to the background, which, like, if I had to have them fuck up one thing, I'm glad they did that. Because, like, fucking thank God all the Transformers are at least different fucking colors, since they're all just, like, gray blobs in the other movies. Yeah. But, like, they don't feel like, oh, like, that green Transformer feels like, oh, there was a green Transformer there. And then they cranked the saturation way the fuck up compared to the background. So it, like, it has that weird effect where it's, like, it just doesn't really fit with the environment.
Right.
Anyways, let's move past the summary. Because
I mean, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, they end it with Optimus Prime giving another stupid speech at the end, and then there's an after credits scene about like Quintessa survived or she's camouflaging as some fucking woman in Egypt talking about Unicron coming. There's nothing to it.
By Michael Bay, I'm like, oh, thank God the movie's finally over. And then the mid credits were rolling, and I'm like, no, fuck this, I'm out of here.
It's a very nothing scene, but yeah, I mean that's pretty much the summary of the movie. Is like, right. I imagine that was a chore to listen to. I promise you, if you had watched the movie, it would not be significantly easier to understand.
Yeah.
Right, but the overall gist of this movie that we all seem to agree on is that this was not a Transformers movie. It was a movie about an Arthurian tale in modern times, similar to like a Da Vinci Code type thing, where then Michael Bay got his hands on the script and was like, fuck yeah, put some robots in it.
Yeah, now I'm kind of curious here because like I'm sort of tempted to actually move in a little bit early to the rating section, because Chowder gave a suggestion of like, what if instead of doing our traditional ratings, we talked about ways we could fix this movie? Yeah. And I think that if we all kind of like stick to and claim one not go through all the things that could change, but just like pick one aspect of it that could be changed and kind of go into more depth about that than usual, that could be a kind of interesting discussion.
Yeah.
Would you guys be down to do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so we are going to move into the rating section. Usually we're rating it on a scale of 1 to 10 whatevers. I think it's pretty apparent for all of us that this would be a 1 or a 0 out of 10. Whatever,
we are using a binary scale for this.
Skulls.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's bad. It's very bad. It's somewhat less enjoyable than I remember it being to watch, just because Chowder's right. Like, despite all the stupidity and like how I enjoy watching bad movies, it's also such a fucking slog to get through.
It's boring as hell because like, one, it's as long as the Lord of the Rings. Why is it as long as the Lord of the Rings? Not Lord of the Rings has a lot of stuff going on plot-wise. While this can just be broken down into a few simple things. Mark is doing a refugee thing. He gets chased. Follows a guy named Cogman, meets a lady. They're told exposition about King Arthur and his staff. They go find the staff, and it's a very standard story, but like it's so long. Why?
Yeah. So what I want to do is, I think, because Pat is the one who brought us here today, I think Pat is going to get first dibs on a thing about this movie that they should have changed. Like, just pick like whether it's like cutting out scenes or fucking, rewriting the story so it's something else. Like, you don't focus on every single thing that could be better about this movie because we'd be here for hours. Just pick a general thing that you think would demonstrably improve this movie and give your reasoning for it, and then Chowder and I will pick something else. So Pat, you want to bring us into it? What do you think is like the most important thing that they should have done just completely differently in this movie?
All right, the most important thing they could have done is remove the King Arthur aspect of the film entirely. It literally adds nothing besides establishing the precedent for knights existing. And they were like, yo, we gotta have knights. We gotta have Transformer knights in this movie. Therefore, we need to have real world knights too, to establish that like false dichotomy or whatever. So you take out the King Arthur stuff, you immediately remove at least half an hour of that movie, and you still don't lose any major story points. You can have some other explanation for why this one woman is the only person who can wield the staff from the human side. Or you just don't even have to go through that aspect at all. It adds literally nothing to the story if she's the only one who can do it.
Yeah.
It's absolutely mind-boggling to me that we have Merlin, Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table, Nazis, and Transformers in the same fucking movie.
Yeah, that was also wild.
You can keep the Nazis in there if you want to. That's fine. Like, that was actually interesting, having the Transformers be there in World War II and helping the Allied powers.
Like, God.
Sick.
Okay.
Keep that.
I know we're doing this thing right now, but this is, like, probably my most important bitching point aside to this whole fucking movie, because I forgot to mention this earlier. When they fucking, Anthony Hopkins reveals that, like, oh, Bumblebee and Hot Rod, like, helped out in Nazi Germany, right? And fucking Mark Wahlberg is just like, Bumblebee was the savage fighter, but he's such a nice guy. Or so, he's so nice. And I'm just like watching this movie and I'm like, when in any of these movies has Bumblebee been a nice guy? You can tell us that he's a nice guy, but I have not heard a literal line of dialogue from this fucking character that isn't like swearing out of his ass. And he speaks through the radio.
Right. Or he's saying that he's gonna make you wish that you burned to death as a baby.
Yeah. Like, when has Bumblebee been a nice guy?
That is an actual line that they have in the movie.
My biggest gripe about all of these movies, and this is not my fucking fix for this movie, is that every single Transformer, and really every single human character too, but all the Transformers are such assholes. Like
80% of the dialogue is just bickering and screaming.
Yeah, and threatening to kill each other.
Yeah.
Like, all the Transformers dialogue with each other is like threatening to kill each other and then occasionally saying a nice thing about Optimus Prime, maybe, right? It's like...
And then a human butts in with some humor to cut the tension.
Yeah, but it's like, when have any of the Transformers in these movies been nice guys? Like, Bumblebee, the character from the original cartoon, was a nice guy, but that is not the character we have been watching for the past fucking 4 movies. He's an asshole. He fucking, in the first movie, the tamest of all of these 5 movies, he literally pees on a dude out in the middle of the street. How could you characterize him as a nice guy? Anyway, I could fucking go on about this shit for hours, but that bugs the shit out of me.
All right, let's go to the next. What are we fixing?
So, Chowder, what would you fix about Transformers: The Last Night?
I would actually have character threads that run through the movies, and less characters so that you don't have to worry about so many threads. So, my suggestion, take Marky Mark, the orphan girl, Polo Girl, the Vivian's her name, and compile them into one character, and so we have this character who is working with Bumblebee, and they're struggling to keep order because they don't have the same kind of respect Optimus Prime had, and they're trying to struggle with that while dealing with all the shit going on in the movie. And it could be a story on like them learning to become leaders in Optimus Prime's absence, culminating in them going up against Optimus Prime as a foil, evil Optimus Prime as a foil, and thus a more satisfying movie, I hope. I don't know.
Yeah. That was somewhat going to be my suggestion, is just not even necessarily merge, but just straight up eliminate half the characters in this movie. Like, Isabel, Junkyard Girl, does not need to be there in the sleigh. She contributes absolutely nothing to the plot. I think for the sake of keeping the weird dynamic that they have, like, it's an integral part of the movie. I think we need Anthony Hopkins, we need Vivian, and we need Kate Yeager, I guess. Right, really, those 2 characters, I agree with you, could be merged into one and just get rid of the stupid sexual tension, but, like, I don't think fucking Kate Yeager's second underpaid intern needs to be in this movie at all. He also disappears about halfway through. I don't really think that Lennox needs to be in this movie, the military guy from the first movie, because, like, there's plenty of other military presence. I don't think we needed to have him as a significant playing role. I don't think Megatron actually needed to be in this movie, because I feel like all of Megatron's role in this movie could have just been filled with evil Optimus Prime, and it would have had the same effect.
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right.
Like,
and also you could just chalk anything you couldn't chalk to evil Optimus Prime. You could just chalk to Quintessa sent this to town or something. Yeah, certainly eliminate the fucking Suicide Squad of Transformers. They did nothing at all. Yeah. But they wouldn't really have a place without Megatron anyway. But yeah, I also don't think that fucking Buster Bluth needed to be in this movie, because, like, he didn't really serve as a significant force of conflict in the movie, more as just, like, a dude that was really stressed out about how the fact that no one was listening to him, and then no one listened to him, and then it was fine.
like, he didn't really serve as a barrier to the main characters where he had to, like, even if I was on board for the whole fucking science versus mysticism argument where he's the skeptical scientist and he needs to be put in his place because there's more important mystical powers here, like, he didn't really serve as any sort of barrier to our characters. He was just kind of off complaining all the time and didn't interact with really anybody significant other than fucking Anthony Hopkins. So,
no, he didn't. He didn't interact with Anthony Hopkins. The president interacted with Anthony Hopkins.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I don't think he needed to be in this movie. I don't think that. Not that. I don't think that we needed the fucking John Turturro Simmons cameo either. Like, he didn't really play a significant part in the story either. He was just kind of in a scene, which, like, maybe that's fine as a fucking cameo or whatever. But, like, did not need to be in this fucking movie. I mean, the biggest thing I would fucking change about all of these movies
in general, just make it shorter. All of our stuff is saying make the movie shorter.
Definitely make the movie shorter. But, like, the biggest thing I would change about all of the fucking Transformers movies is just make the Transformers the actual characters. Even if we have a human who is the main character, like, the Transformers, every single one of them are completely one-dimensional characters in all of these movies. Except for, like, maybe Optimus Prime in the first movie was kind of cool, right? But ever since then, it's just, like, none of the Transformers serve as anything other than just, like, weird stereotypes that exist. And it's just, like, why are we... If the whole movie's about the Transformers, could the Transformers be the actual characters? Like, even a little bit? It's just baffling to me.
I mean, like, let's just recap real quick. Like, all of our complaints are under the bigger umbrella of shorten the damn movie. Pat's saying get rid of the King Arthur stuff. I'm saying have a character, have like a thread of like characterization that runs through the movie. You're saying cut down on the characters, and I think what we're trying to say is just make a movie.
Dude, like, there's so many, like, it's not just the characters, but there's so many scenes in this movie that I watch it, and I'm just like, in a normal length movie, I'm gonna be like, oh, that was kind of a weird scene, but whatever. But, like, I'm watching this movie knowing that it is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, and I'm just like, who allowed this scene to be left in the movie? How long was this movie before stuff was cut out? Was anything cut out? I'd really like to know, because, like, if they fucking film like 6 hours movie worth of footage and then like cut it down to this, that's baffling that any of these scenes are the ones that were decided to keep in, because it's just like,
I want to know. I would much rather have them make a 6 hour long movie and like cut it up into 2 movies, because I would be, it would at least give us the story threads that we're looking for.
Yeah, because it's baffling, because it's like
just more misogyny.
The movie is almost 3 hours long, and there still feels a lot of stuff that is like not properly explored, right? Yeah. Like it's 2 hours and 45 minutes, and there's still scenes devoted to setting up hype for the next movie, which never fucking happened, right? Like it's very Batman versus Superman in that way.
Yeah, like the second Transformers movie sucked, and it had the excuse of, it was during the writers' strike, there weren't any writers on board. What does this movie have to say for itself?
Oof, yeah.
They didn't have money for the writers because they had to pay for all the shitty CGI.
And fucking... Yeah, I know. That's the baffling thing, right? Is they've got all of these scenes that look like really expensive, like the huge, King Arthur battle scene in the beginning, and it was just like, you couldn't have maybe moved that money to either better writing or even better CGI, because frankly, like, that's the whole point of the movie. Even if you have a shit story, the Transformers should at least look good. In my opinion, in this one, they really kind of didn't, at least not to the standard that some of the other movies had. Like, fucking, I could complain about, the plot and all the writing of these movies forever, but like, it is supposed to be like a big stupid blockbuster movie. And it doesn't even really work in that context, I don't think. So, I don't know. But, yeah, I mean...
Like, again, the first movie, for all its faults, it did take advantage of, like, the concept of the Transformers. And all subsequent films, get that out of there, man.
Yeah, I mean... to be fair, I mean, even in the first movie, they made up a lot of shit that was not like previously present in like Transformers.
They may have made up a lot of shit, but the idea of transforming robots is used in the action scenes.
No, you're right.
Like I still remember that like highway fight where like, you know, they're transforming into the car and then transforming out and roller skating on their wheels, and it's a really cool scene. Or the final fight scene in the first movie where the Autobots are outnumbered by the Decepticons, and so they have to like use tactics, and it's like, okay, those were actually pretty good, all things considered. The movie's still not good, but there were good stuff in it, and then after that, it's like, get that out of there. What do you think we're doing? Trying to make a quality movie?
No, I think it's like pretty apparent in this one that just like there's so little actual transforming going on. Like, I think that if you took out the Transformers in this movie and made it literally any other alien race, like there would be absolutely no difference, right? Like, you know, we could speculate as like, oh, what if they just took out the fucking alien plotline altogether and just made it a better movie? But even if they replaced the Transformers with other aliens, like there's no significance to them being Transformers in this movie at all.
Oh my god. So I just looked this up. There were 6 people editing.
That explains so much.
Those poor people.
That is so hard to get. Like, having 6 people try to edit the same movie.
But it explains so much.
Keep everything
the movie is so
relatively
over-edited,
straightforward.
Cutting and oh my.
Maybe it was 6 hours, and that's why they needed 6 editors.
Oh my Christ. Right. I mean, there's lots of content here that we could keep fucking ranting about forever, and I really do hope that our just nonsense rambling and ranting for the past 2 hours was somewhat enjoyable to the viewers, because I do really, at the bottom of my heart, enjoy talking about these movies, because I do enjoy a good bad movie, and it's always going to, like, irrevocably pain me that the Transformers movie franchise is so bad, because I really am a huge Transformers fanboy, like the franchise, not these movies. I don't really like any of the movies except for maybe Bumblebee, but
at least you'll always have Bumblebee.
Yeah, well, yeah. We can talk about Bumblebee another time. It's a good movie. I don't think it's a good Transformers movie per se. But that's neither here nor there. That could be its own fucking discussion for another day. I hope that this was salvageably listenable to people, because I did enjoy the discussion. It's nice to fucking get this shit off my chest, but I think let's fucking wrap it up there. I have been your host, Jeff Leavitt. Yeah.
Real quick, someone in the comment section to that article I found for the 6 editors thing goes, "Nobody liked it, ? Couldn't care less what snobbish critics think. I think this was the best one in the franchise." Fuck off!
I don't believe you exist.
This is like in the end of Borat 2 when they've got fucking the Kazakhstanis paid to write, "I'm black and I voted for Donald Trump." This is what that person feels like. They
somehow put a fucking reference to Trump's election in this review.
Really? Read it now.
Yeah, they're like, no amount of reviewer bullshit is going to change that. Hell, if most reviewers had their way, all movies would be glorified hipster indie flicks with bloated dialogue, super diverse characters, and a plot only an English lit major would possibly enjoy. Hint, these movies would all fail because the vast majority of the population, as seen in the last election, are not in this movie.
Oh my god.
Fuck off! I hope you literally never speak again in your entire life.
Like, I'm pretty sure I've said the phrase, "This is baffling to me," maybe like 30 times throughout this episode, but like, that's incredibly baffling to me, because there's lots of simple, fun movies out there that you don't have to fucking have a literature degree to enjoy, right? Like, there's dumb, big blockbuster movies. This is not that. This is a bad version of attempting to try to do that. You know what I mean? Like, this is not, like...
This isn't a mindless flick.
You would probably have to have...
a 2.5 hour epic a la Lord of the Rings, but failing badly at it.
that comment is so wild to me, because I honestly feel like if you don't have like 6 degrees, then you could not possibly watch this movie once through and understand what the fuck was going on, because it is so all over the place. It's not like it's got a simple plot that, you know, the common folk can understand. It's legitimately confusing, like to a significant degree, I would say. Anyway, that's hilarious.
I am even angrier that I found that review now. Like, I want to slap that guy.
I have been your host. My name is Jeff Leavitt. You can find me on Instagram. I've got an Instagram where I have not posted in months, but I've got some stuff up there. It's things I wish existed. There's a dot between each word. I have this is germane to this topic, but I have a YouTube channel where I review Transformers toys for the most part. So if that's the kind of thing that you're into, which I don't expect most of you to be, but that's okay. That is Alchemist Prime Reviews on YouTube. And I've been joined by Chowder and Pat. Do either of you have any social media stuff that you want to pimp out?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Taeemul Chowdhury. I also run the Common Geeking Program Twitter account, so you can see that too.
Sweet. Pat?
You can find me on Twitter at Puriffery, Puriffery. And if you are specifically someone 72 from Polygon, DM me, because I want to fight you.
Are you talking about the person who left the fucking Trumpist review on Transformers 5? That's also just wild, yes, because Transformers 5 came out in 2017, right? Which means that... Oh, 2016. Never mind. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, this review was left in 2017.
Yeah.
July 17th, 2017.
And also, Pat, this is somewhat of an aside, but it's fucking relevant to just you at this point. I had to think about how this came out. I just fucking caught up with Dice Populi today, and it's a real good time. Nice. That's another podcast that is technically under our wing. If you're familiar with Colin and Pat and Matt and a few of our other friends, they do a real play D&D podcast, and it's been going for a little while now, and it's got some pretty good stuff. I finally caught up with it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun doing that podcast. I definitely enjoy our system where we rotate the DMs. Helps keep everybody fresh. Gives you a chance to play as a player character, but then gives you a chance to get a little bit more down and dirty with coming up with a story and a campaign. So
yeah, it's a good listen. I would recommend it, even if I didn't know these people. And in fact, I would think my listening to it, I like the podcast despite knowing you. I think not because knowing you, not you personally, but
damn.
No, I'm fucking deep, mostly Jeffy. Kidding, but there's like, never mind.
Just digging yourself deeper, friend.
Anyway, I think that it would be fun to fucking reconvene, maybe with specifically the three of us sometime, and talk about some of the other Transformers movies, because I think we could get a lot of dialogue off of Age of Extinction as well, if maybe we want to organize it a little bit more efficiently than we did this one. But I had a good time regardless of the clusterfuckery that is this episode, and I hope you guys did too, and I hope you did listening to it. But our next episode of the podcast is going to be on the third Friday in February, I think, which is going to be the 19th of February. So look forward to that, and then we'll have another briefing program on the first Friday in February, the 5th. And without further ado, we've been the Common Geeking Program. Thanks for listening, watching, listening, whatever you do, subscribing. I fucking don't have the script open in front of me, so I'm just going off of memory. And we'll talk to you in a few weeks.
Ciao.
This episode of the Common Geeking Program is hosted by Jeff Leavitt, joined this episode by Taeemul Chowdhury and Pat Brem. This episode is sponsored by Explosions. Kaboom! The podcast is created and produced by Colin Ketchen and Jeff Leavitt and features original music by Colin Ketchen. This episode was edited by me, Taeemul Chowdhury. We'd love for you to stay engaged with us on social media at Geeking Program, or by using hashtag CGP. If you want to know more about us and all of our other projects, head to commongeekingprogram.com. Stay in touch, stay tuned, and as always, thank you for listening to this. Ciao!